All right. Well, that's a good start. With the way the season's gone, me screwing up music's probably a good start for our podcast. So,
Yeah, that's all right.
I'm like,
don't worry. Porter Moser will make us feel better about life later.
Good thing we got college basketball to talk about. So unfortunately, we get on here thinking that we're going to be able to talk about Jim Knowles and him being our new DC. And now, like, if you would have had me do this podcast tomorrow or yesterday, I'd have probably been like, yeah, he's coming. And now all the words I'm hearing is just like, it at least sounds like it's going to fall through. So, I know we're still talking about it, but I mean, it's the hot button topic right now. So,
I mean, I think it was a deal where last week when we were talking about it, every day it didn't happen increased our odds. And now I think every day that it hasn't happened decreases our odds is where we're at now. And you just have to look back to the Alley situation with us, right? 48 hours after the game, Alley was at West Virginia. Well, we're 48 hours after the national championship game, and Knowles is still there. And whether you want to look at little breadcrumbs like, what was it, his sister going on Twitter saying that his fiance loves it in Columbus, or if it's the agent who's kind of thrown his name in the Notre Dame hat now too, and maybe it was all just a money ploy. I don't know. But, maybe with our luck on this, it's kind of like with the Arbuckle thing. Maybe as soon as we finish this, it'll happen. But I really
here too. So
if you were to ask me right now, point blank, do I think it's going to happen? No, I don't. I don't think that's where we're headed, and I think that's kind of where you feel too, right, Jeremy?
Yeah, and I've got a guy that I talked to through text that he told me this last weekend, and I think I sent it to our friend group, that he has a source inside the program. He said 90% chance Knowles is coming. He just now sent me a text message before I got on. He said 0%. So that's why I'm like, okay, I'm kind of hearing the same stuff. So, I mean, hopefully some changes, I don't think it's a money issue. It could be too that he thought Day was leaving. Day might not be. I know there's so many narratives out there that you don't really know. And so I'm like, we're kind of beating our.
Hey, you can't trust a poke, man. It goes back to it. It's what we get for putting our faith in a guy who was a poke for a few years. So maybe that's where it's at. And I mean, no, it's never something that made just a ton of sense. It's one of those things that was just, why were we expecting something lucky to happen for Brent Venables? Bless his heart, nothing ever has. So, kind of where do we turn next? A name that's kind of been floated out there a little bit is, I think it's Willie Martinez, who is the secondaries coach at Tennessee, is a name that I've heard a little bit that it could be. Now, to me, that doesn't really make the most sense. I still think probably what's going to happen here is Wes Goodwin's hired to be the linebackers coach. Brandon Hall's the DC. Brent runs the defense.
Yeah.
I think probably Brandon Hall and Bates get a little bit of a pay bump. Goodwin slides in there to that spot, and that's where we're at.
Yeah.
But that being said, I don't know. But if you were just to say, hey, Steve, what do you think is going to happen? That's what I think is going to happen. Unless there's some 11th hour deal here with Knowles. And like I said, usually when 11th hour things happen, it's a financial thing. Yeah. I don't think this is not a willingness of OU to spend. I think this is just the guy just won a national championship. They have the best roster money can buy. They're going to continue to do that. It's a good situation in Columbus. I do think it would be a good situation here in Norman as well. But, personally, that's kind of where I think. Where do you think OU goes from here, Jeremy?
I'm kind of the same. I thought we were okay either way. I mean, Brent Venables has lost a lot of luster over the years because he's a head coach. But I think people forget, when he was a DC, there wasn't any talk of Jim Knowles being the best DC in college football. It was Brent Venables. So it's like we're kind of in a win-win situation. I understand, guys. Like, we want BV to focus on being a head coach, maybe game management. I understand. I wanted it. I thought the only person that could keep him to just being a head coach and not worrying about the defense would be Jim Knowles. Everybody else is, he's going to have his hand in it. So it's his job. I mean, his job's on the line. So if he feels like this is I listened to Unofficial 40 a little bit before I got on, and they made a good point. It's a Hail Mary. I mean, he didn't expect to get Jim Knowles. He's just throwing it up in the air and praying to God. Like, if we get it, great. If we don't, I have a backup plan. So, as you see, he's out recruiting right now. He's business as usual. I don't think he's losing sleep over it either way.
And I think that's, to me, that's something that's really more important than the Knowles thing, honestly, too, is I've heard a lot of talk from the recruiting insiders. I mean, guys like Josh McQuistion, who I respect, some of the other guys, Parker's talked about this, Brandon Drums talked about this. There's been quite a bit of conversation on the recruiting side. And, is Brent's instability and the lack of sustained success we've had in this program, really going to hurt us in recruiting? Because that's where it really matters. It's all about the players. I mean, did Jim Knowles have a better defensive game plan than Al Golden? I don't know. But I know one thing. Ohio State had a lot better skill guys on offense than Notre Dame did, and that's what we've got to do, is get the best people that we can get. And seems like that the staff's out there, hitting the trail really hard, doing what we would expect them to do. And hopefully we can, keep that momentum going, because honestly, this staff has recruited well enough for us to win.
Yeah.
And so hopefully we can continue to do that. We continue to hit the road. We continue to be out there. I know, once again, going back to the Brent Venables bad luck train, but he was out for a little bit. There was stuff with his wife. Lots of bad luck things there. I actually heard from my girls basketball coach, Brent's kids go to a 3A high school here in Oklahoma as well, same as the school that I go to. And I'd heard that Brent's daughter sustained a season-ending injury. And so I think it's just one of those things that the hits keep coming for the Venables family. And, glad to see Brent out there in the trail. Hope that means good things health-wise for his wife and that sort of thing. Because whether or not he can be a head coach, I know Brent Venables can do two things. He can coach defense and he can recruit. And if Jim Knowles not coming means he is the defensive guy, that's okay. And seeing him out on the recruiting trail, I mean, anyone who's ever, and we just get glimpses of this, Jeremy and I weren't lucky enough to be recruited by Brent Venables, but if you just go to the best you feel about the OU football program is when you hear Brent talk and you get that vision and you get that understanding. He's someone who parents are going to like, who recruits are going to like, and I'm glad to see him out on the trail doing what I think he does a great job of. And
this, I might be wearing crimson colored glasses, but I think we're putting a better defense out there than what Ohio State has. So, it is what it is. I know people are like, Caleb Downs, like, that's the best defensive player in America. He is very good. I'm not taking anything away from him, but it's like, look who we got coming back in the secondary. We've got dudes everywhere.
This Ohio State team was a lot of 5th and 6th year guys. It was kind of some lasting vestiges of some COVID guys. I was listening to some national person. I can't remember exactly who it was. I think maybe it was Pollock, who used to be on Game Day, was on with Ryan Russillo, and I was listening to him. And, he talked about that there were 11 guys on Ohio State's team who last year got day 1 or day 2 draft grades who came back. That doesn't happen very often. And, they were able to pony up that money to do that. And, Ohio State's not going to have that next year. So, things kind of put big picture, put a bow on this football season, just kind of some things I learned from watching the 12-team playoff. Number one, it needs to be seeded correctly. The seeding was terrible. Number two, you know, the team that's the most complete is who won these games. It wasn't like it was just, back in the, 5, 10 years ago, you had to have the elite quarterback. I don't think you have to have that. I think you have to play, like what Brent said forever, complementary football. And I think you've got to be sound on all sides. You can't have those big mistakes. And that's what I hope that we're building. And that's where I hope that we're heading. What kind of big picture things did you see, Jeremy, just putting a bow on the playoff and all that stuff?
Will Howard won a national championship. I
Right.
mean, you want to look at it and say that's the best money team money can buy. Yeah, that's like you just said, the most complete team. Will Howard, I watched him play at Kansas State. I sent a meme of Kansas State hanging a banner saying our old quarterback won a national championship.
Yeah.
But I mean, Will Howard looked like, I said, if you watch Will Howard in the playoffs, you would have said, well, so he won the Heisman.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
I mean, he thread needles. I mean, he played, and it makes me excited for OU because, like I said, I'm an OU fan, but I look at him like,
what Will Howard kind of looked like. Jeremy, did you ever play when you were in elementary or middle school? We were going out there and you're playing football either at recess, right after school, and if you're doing like the no rush or the 5 Mississippi or whatever, you didn't put your best athlete at quarterback. You put, like sometimes if I get to play with the older kids, even though I didn't have a very good arm, I would be like, okay, Goss, you're going to play quarterback because I can just sit back there and be like, okay, here's all the older, fast kids, and I'm just going to find one that's wide open and throw it to them and let them outrun the little nerdy kid who's doubled up in a, 2 jackets trying to chase after him. And that's kind of what it was, is Will Howard stepped back there. He looked, he found who was, which first round draft pick do I want to throw it to? Yeah. This one. Oh, you want to come up and play man? You want to play cover 0 with Jeremiah Smith? Yoink, over the top. Yeah. I mean, cats, dude. They had cats.
You're not, and that's the whole deal. Is like he just did what I really want Mateer to do next year is just play complimentary football. Don't make mistakes, and let your defense win football games for you because that's how we have to play next year. So
I was purging out some stuff out of my closet the other day. And I know I'm not coming out of the closet, guys, happily married. That's not what I'm saying here. But I was cleaning some stuff out of my closet, and I found my Athlon, college football magazine preview. And I was flipping through to kind of see different things. And OU in this magazine had the 5th best receiving corps in the country, according to this. And I just, smiled and shook my head and thought, yeah. And we didn't get, freaking 10 receptions from the cast that they talked about, and that's one of those, like, what ifs, what if all those guys stay safe? What if all those guys don't get hurt? Do I think Jackson Arnold is a known terrorist? I probably don't. Is Seth Luttrell still the OC? Maybe. Who knows? But those are the things that did happen. And as we go into this next season, we just got to hope that stuff works out better. We just have to hope that, and
and I'm going to put, we'll move on to basketball because it is basketball season and it's hard not to talk about it, especially when you're waiting on a decision on a DC. But like I was telling somebody on Twitter the other day, we're talking about Venables. He's just not a head coach and he might not be a head coach. But the thing that worries me the most about Brent Venables is that he is probably going to, if he gets let go, doesn't have a good season, gets let go, he's probably going to go somewhere else and be it maybe an analyst for a couple of years, go be a head coach, and he's going to kill it because he's learned all what not to do at OU, which it's one of those scenarios where look at Lane Kiffin. How many jobs did Lane Kiffin go to? And people are like, this guy's just not a head coach. Well, then he finally landed, and I mean, he gets the best players money can buy. But that said, Lane Kiffin's still an okay coach. So,
I mean, look at Sark, guys. Sark was 7-win Sark, and Texas still has as many college football semifinal wins as we do.
So I'm so sick of the Texas stuff. Like all these Texas fans act like they are the one who won all those Big 12 championships. Like, guys, I understand. Like, I would probably be unsufferable too if we were in their shoes with Texas fans. But that said, it's like, don't act like you've just been king crap this whole time.
I can't wait for Arch to suck. I mean, God, I hope he does.
It's coming. I'm not saying it's going to be the same, but it's got a lot of Jackson Arnold feel to it.
Well, I mean, this idiot right here, this guy kept saying, I'm telling you, Jackson Arnold's better than freaking Arch. I'm just telling you, he's better. That's just, if his name was blah, 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 he's better. So, hey, hopefully I'm right. Hopefully he sucks even worse than Jackson does.
I love that
would be
people
awesome.
Forget what Jackson Arnold did last year. I saw a list of the top 10 quarterbacks next year, and Jackson Arnold was number 10.
Yeah.
So I'm like, do you not want
I mean, who knows, man? But like Jeremy said, we've got all summer to pee-moan and gripe about that. But we've only got a few months left to pee-moan and gripe about our basketball team, which
Especially we keep at the rate we're at.
win a game last weekend. They did beat South Carolina. So we are not the worst team in the SEC. Was looking at a Lenardi bracketology thing. We're still on the right side of the bubble right now. It has a 9 seed. I still think that's a little high. To me, we're probably more in that like last 4 with the bye, 10, 11 seed. But, whatever. I'm no Jerry Palm. I'm no bracketologist. But that being said, huge game at Arkansas this weekend. Arkansas's leading scorer is out for the rest of the year. That just came out, but that didn't work out very well for us with A&M's best player.
It's got a lot of A&M feel to it. So.
Coach Cal is taking a lot of heat, taking a lot of crap. He doesn't even know who they're playing night to night. It's kind of some things I'm getting from some friends over on the hill in Fayetteville. So all that being said, yes, it's a must win, but crap, they're freaking all must wins, and hopefully it comes together. What did come together Saturday was our best 2 players were our best 2 players. Fears and Moore had good games. I don't understand what Kobe Elvis did to not start, besides be the only person who was playing and he hadn't started the last 2 games. Maybe we're still hoping to rekindle the good game against A&M, trying to space the floor a little bit, maybe, that sort of thing. But hopefully good things. But until at least we win Saturday, I can't really come on here and say a whole lot of positive. I would really be more interested in, thinking about who from the Houston staff we're going to hire. If it's Hollis Price or Quantus White or Kellen Sampson or whoever it is, that probably excites me a little bit more. But consider me, a learned Charlie Brown. I'm not running up to kick the football just yet. Lucy's going to have to sit there for a couple of more wins before I run up and try to kick it again.
And Goodine too, like Goodine's a shooter. Like he's going to have another game. Like I don't know if it's going to be like A&M, but the guy can hit. He's got too pretty of a shot to not hit shots.
And it does help with spacing.
Yeah, you got to get him in the right situation. Here's the thing. We beat South Carolina. That last probably 10 minutes of the South Carolina game in the second half, we look like the non-conference OU.
Yeah. Forsyth got a little run Saturday. That was nice to see.
Yeah, and Dayton Forsyth is like a Keaton Page clone to me. Like he's not a guy that you're going to go out there and say. Now later on in his career, he's probably going to put more points up. A girl that me and Steve went to school with, her daughter April goes to Dale, and so she kept telling me about Dayton Forsyth. Like, man, he's a stud. And I mean, I've seen highlights of him, but everybody looks good in high school when they're playing 2A. So, but he's that spark plug that we need from him. Like and that's here's what Porter needs to tell him is like, I'm gonna run you out there about 15 minutes, and if we're getting a spark from you, you could be more than that. But like the second half of the Texas game and the second half of the South Carolina game,
the 2 people I need to see more of. I need to see more Forsyth, and I need to see more Taylor. I don't understand why Taylor doesn't get more run than what he does. To me, our offense just flows better with Taylor, and those are two energy type guys, that are there. And the nice thing with Forsyth is whether Porter's the coach here next year, or it's somebody from the Houston staff, or it's the guy at North Texas, or it's my buddy Bobby Allison, whoever it may be. Dayton Forsyth is going to be on the OU roster next year. That's a guy who, bleeds crimson and cream, wants to be here. That's a building block going forward. He can't be the best player on our team, even when he's a senior, and us be where we need to be. But he's someone that should get better over time. The game looks like it's slowing down to him a little bit. And I just hope that we continue to get him in the game. And even though Taylor is a senior, he's a guy that I just like to see in there, because to me, when we're playing good basketball a lot, he's in there. And those guys, I have a buddy of mine who coaches, who says, when I don't have to coach effort, I can coach everything else. And shout out Donnie Husband. But when you don't have to coach effort, you can coach everything else. And that's just a big deal. And I think those are two cats you don't have to coach any effort to.
And that Texas game, that first half they've quit on him.
Yeah.
You just watched him. And then Dayton went out there and gave him kind of that spark. And it's like they made that run at the end where you didn't feel as bad. Guys, I watched him play South Carolina. I didn't leave that game thinking, okay, we got it all figured out. Like, I got to see 40 minutes of basketball. Like, we're not giving full 40. And the problem that I'm having right now with this Porter Moser offense is I can't figure it.
We don't run offense.
That's what I'm saying. I cannot figure out what we're doing on offense. It reminds me of
this.
Yes. Well, I
Stand and watch.
I coach a sixth grade girls basketball team, and I'll tell you guys, I have 3 girls that can handle the ball, and we run and gun. And I finally changed it to where we run a high pick on our offense if they're going to get us in half court. But if you want a way to beat us, stop us from running and make us run half court sets. We are lost, and that's how OU looks.
Yeah,
because it's like they want to get out and run.
We stink.
Yeah, and they want to get out and run, and if they are forced to go half court, it's like, what do we do now? Well, maybe set some picks and run your offense. But
I don't understand that, because when we had the Groves, when Porter first came, or if you go back to when he was at Loyola, they kind of ran some of that like Princeton 10 type stuff where they'd run stuff through the high post. You'd have the back screens, you'd have the double away, you'd have the curls coming across. And don't get me wrong, we've got our best player now is a ball dominant guard who, we need to play NBA style basketball, set a high ball screen, shooters in the corners, and go get downhill and try to get that. But even in that, you've got to have dummy action, moving people away. You've got to have some, if we don't run any sort of backside action to it whatsoever. And I mean, guys, it is almost February and we still run offense like it's November.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things of, especially as you get into conference play and you play some of these people a second time, or you give people time to be prepared, they're going to know, okay, get back, build a wall. We can't run offense.
Yeah. And Jalen Moore is starting to become Jalen Moore. Like, if you listen to our podcast, I've always said, like, Jalen Moore needs to be, like, I know Fears is doing unbelievable things in non-conference, but Jalen Moore has fought those battles. And what worried me about Fears is that he's a high school senior.
Yeah, he's young.
And he's young, and he's turnover prone. So you can't, like, in the SEC, you can't go one-on-one with guys. Like, he is talented enough to go one-on-one, but it's got to go in with our offense, because you will notice against South Carolina when he get those one-on-ones, what it was is we did some spacing so he could take him one-on-one, didn't have help on the backside. So that's what we need to get him in those situations.
Okay, Jeremy, you and I are both youth sport coaches. And if you have your daughter's team, softball, basketball, whatever, and you're playing up 2 age divisions, are you usually very good? You're not. Okay. And when your best player should be a high school senior and you're playing against third year, fourth year, fifth year, and we're kind of toward the end of the 6th-year players. So we still got, crap, the dude from Michigan/Kansas has been, I think Jeremy and I went to kindergarten with Hunter Dickinson. Okay. He's been playing, him and Perry Ellis were in the same recruiting class at Kansas, I'm pretty sure. That's the thing with Veers. He's going to have moments that it looks really good, but when he played like Alabama and you're playing against a Devon Sears who's done it longer at a higher level, who's stronger, who's, more savvy, you're going to have those nights you don't look as good.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of what that is. But I just think must win Saturday.
Yeah.
I still think
we have to beat our. I
think if Porter makes the tournament, he stays. I do. I think, and I think the answer to that is really dollars and cents. I don't think OU wants to spend the money on a Porter Moser buyout and then possibly a Brent Venables buyout in a 10-month essentially deal. I don't think OU wants to do that. I don't think that's money.
Here's the deal: is if Venables is let go, then we're probably looking for a new AD too. So and be prepared. Like it's going to be a full just.
And that's not what either of us want. And if you're an anarchist who wants that, guys, it could. Once again, we hate saying this, but look at Nebraska. They've went through ADs. They've had, Trev Alberts be AD. They've had all sorts of different people. They went and got Tom Osborne to be an AD. They go get Trev Alberts on a TV to go be an AD. They've done different things. And that's not where we want to go. And we got to hope this works out. It's the best for us financially, because if we can survive this next year, okay, basketball makes the tournament, Porter keeps his job, then the SEC money that we're not getting this year comes in next year with revenue sharing, with the thing that the governor signed to help us pay more out of the collective. All that stuff starts to hit, and then we can start paying better for players going forward. We're in that better position. Same thing with football. If Brent can go 8-4, 9-3, it's better for us. It's better for us. That's where we want to go. That's the best for the university long term. That's where we need to be rooting. And you can call me a sunshine pumper if you want, and some people do, and that's fine. But the reason I'm doing that is we're not Texas. We're not Texas A&M. We don't have that alumni base. We don't have those huge money donors. It's the same people that are going to be paying for that buyout, that paid for Love Field, that paid for all the other things that the University of Oklahoma gets. It's the same people that are making those payments. And we can't keep going to that well. There's your landman joke of the day, since we quote landman about every week on this. That well, we can only rework those wells so many times before we eventually run out. We fracked some of our donors, and we're going to try to frack them some more. But eventually, that's where it's at. We just need to win and see some of that auxiliary money start coming in.
I really honestly think, I hate to bring back football, but I do think we're going to have more success. Is it going to be enough to save Venables' job? I don't know. But I do feel like we have the pieces to have a successful season. The problem for Venables is he still has the same schedule, and you're adding Michigan coming to Norman. So
we're going to know early, man. We're going to know early.
Yeah, and there's a
speaking of knowing early. Here's a quick change for us. I knew early on our women had no chance against South Carolina, in case anyone was paying attention to that. So if you want to know, like the old Moneyball deal of there's these teams, a stack of crap, and us, we're not in the stack of crap there, and we're in the upper echelon in women's basketball. But to get to the tip top where South Carolina is a long ways to go, guys. Yeah. It just is. And that's no slide on Jenny. That's no slide on anything. I think OU women's basketball is trending in a positive direction. Really happy with where that program's going. but we are not a national championship contender.
Yeah,
You know,
you
and I
you
knew
have to
that was
play a
going to be
perfect.
bad when I saw what they did to Texas, who I thought Texas was more talented, you know, than we were when I watched us lose that game to Texas. But any women's hoops thoughts, Jeremy, before we
Well,
move
I
on
mean,
to
to beat South Carolina, you have to play a perfect game, and our women are a whole lot like our men. We have a
turn the ball over too
turnover
much?
problem. Turn
Yeah,
the ball over. Like, I don't care what age group you
yeah,
play in. You turn the basketball over,
can't
you're not
win,
gonna win a
man.
whole lot of games. And that's,
Yeah,
I mean, the Texas game with the men was what infuriated me the most. And I'm like, we just go down there and turn the ball over, and then
yeah,
we get to a one possession game. The next three possessions, we turn the basketball over.
yeah.
Like, and the women's is hell. They're probably just as bad as the men are with turnovers.
Oh
I
no,
mean,
that they don't value the ball whatsoever. I mean, they're in such
no,
a
and they're.
hurry,
I mean, they're
and I
running
get
the
they want to
offense
play
with theirs.
fast, but they play too fast. I mean, in my opinion, they're trying to play too fast for the personnel that they have sometimes. And
Yeah,
you
and
know, when
they're
you run
worried
into
when they get
equal
in the half court.
athletes, it's just turnover fest.
And when they get in the half court, they want to get the ball to Beers so bad that you know
Yeah,
what teams know that, so
yeah.
they're going to cut that off. So
And I mean, the women's game is below the rim. Okay,
mhm.
the spacing is going to be tighter because of that. Because there's no vertical, you know, there's no vertical cap to spacing and that sort of thing. And I think you know our women just have turnover issues.
Yeah,
Happier times before we sign off is we're what under a month from first pitch of softball, right?
yeah, I think it's 2 weeks from tomorrow, so we're going to try to do like a softball preview. I'm going to talk to Eric Bailey, see if we can't get him on. He's big in the softball scene. Uh, I've told my daughter I want her to come on because there is nobody knows OU softball more than her. She lives, breathes OU softball. So she's like, I got to read up a little bit more on our newcomers. I'm like, well, yeah, like our senior group that won so many, won everything.
Right.
We got to learn some of these
It
girls.
is going to be a
So,
new cast of characters, you know. You know,
and to have that group be ranked number 3 is, I guarantee you, Patty Gasso is like, thank you,
yeah,
because that's motivation. Like we won 4 straight national championships. Now that said, Florida and Texas have teams that should be ranked 1 and 2. I mean, Florida basically returns everybody back that had OU on the ropes last year. So, but as long as Patty Gasso is coaching OU softball, we are always a contender. And the studs that we have coming here, I don't think we're going to have a problem. So it
but
is
I do
exciting.
think if someone's going to get us, this might be the year too, because I do think like not that we've had bad recruiting classes, but with COVID and that sort of thing, I think it was harder to really know with some of the COVID, you know, with some of the recruiting classes last couple of years. But
Yeah.
from everything I've heard, and a guy like Eric's going to know more, you know, than I am, but everything I've seen is our last 2 classes are absolutely stacked.
Oh, they
And
are.
you know,
They
really
are.
excited to get to that. So, any closing thoughts, Jeremy, before we sign off here?
Man, I'm just ready for the Knowles stuff to be done, just
Yeah,
because I can't refresh Twitter anymore, and it's a lot like the Mateer situation. Like my radar's up and down all the time. It's like every day I hear something new. It gets to the point now where I mean, it really doesn't matter. We're either going to have Jim Knowles, we're going to have Brent Venables. So
right. And I mean,
at that point, it doesn't matter. I think we're set up. Defensively is not our problem. Somebody said this on Twitter, and I agree 100%. They're like, how do you feel if we get Jim Knowles? And he said, well, he's not coaching offense, and defense wasn't our problem.
right?
So I'm like, we already got our offensive coordinator, our quarterback. So
Yeah.
defensively,
Unless we
have
find
the
out
players.
that like Jeremiah Smith is like, you know, been adopted by Jim Knowles, then I would be even more interested in it
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. But
I take
you know, who
Jeremiah
knows?
Smith.
Maybe next week when we're on, we're talking about Jim Knowles. But
I'm not
I think
holding my
last week
breath
we
because
kind
that's
of
what
signed off on percentages. I'd probably put it at like 7% that Jim Knowles is our DC now.
I'm not going to go that low. I'm saying like 15%. Like I said, if you'd asked me yesterday, I'd probably been like 80, 85. But it's just like, I don't think it's money. You want my honest opinion. Here's what I think happened is, you probably offered him $3 million, make him the highest paid DC in college football. And Ohio State probably came back and said, here's $4 million if you'll stay.
Yeah.
And people say that's another $1 million to that guy. Still another $1 million. And you can probably go to mama and say, if we stay in Columbus, we get $4 million. And we stay in Oklahoma, we get $3 million. So you get another $1 million.
Yeah. I mean, cost of living is going to be more in Columbus, but that's not like he's living in Manhattan. So
if he comes to Oklahoma, he loves living in Oklahoma, and mama said, I don't want to move. There is my expert analysis. So
so all right, man. Well, have a good one.
Okay.
Before we sign off, guys.
Yes. Guys, YouTube. We had our lowest views on YouTube this last week, but also too, I didn't promote it as much as I have in the past. So we're going to try to get better at doing that. And
I did get, just want to talk a little bit of sponsorship stuff again. Send us an email, soonercast@gmail.com, and going to have some really simple sponsored things out within the next couple of weeks that you guys can just do, so we can just make this production a little bit better. Like we've said, this isn't something that Jeremy and I are doing, trying to get rich or anything like that. I'm obviously rich anyway, right? Because I've had like 2 vacation pods in the 10 pods that we've had on this.
Yeah, all our money's going to Steve. That's all I know.
Yeah. That being said, send us an email. We certainly like seeing the comments. Do want to apologize. Last week, my audio was a little messed up. So hopefully that's all better this week. But like Jeremy said, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Apple, Spotify. Have a great rest of your week, everybody. And Boomer.
Boomer Center.